I was not meant to be a firekeeper, but I am honored to serve you beside the bonfire. The gods are ever merciful. My gratitude lies with them and with you. I am yours now. Your wish is my command.
Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and in this video we'll be talking Dark Souls lore. Before that though, I just want to get something out of the way real quick. If you're watching this near release, you'll probably be clamouring for talk on the DLC. Yes, I'll be making videos on it, I'll be making lore videos on it. Please be patient though. That out of the way, on with the show. Today we'll be having a look at a pair of characters whose questline has quite a few different outcomes depending on how you approach it. As with Anri and Horace, this pair have quite a complex relationship, but one whose basis was established as long ago as the first Dark Souls, wherein we first learned of cleric maidens on their pilgrimage, protected by their faithful knights. And if we go back all the way to Demon Souls, we can compare them with Garl Vinland and Maiden Astraea. This particular maiden, however, is Irina, and her protector, Eygon, both of Carim. In every Souls game, we've had a heavily armoured paladin-esque character wielding a large hammer: Garl Vinland, Paladin Leroy, Velstart, and Eygon. Likewise, in every Souls game we've had a maiden, armoured in her faith: Saint Astraea, Rhea of Thoroland, Lycia of Lindelt, or perhaps Ulsana the Silent Oracle is a better choice there. And of course, Irina. Quite often the two go hand in hand, although that's not always the case. So what do we know of Eygon? His name for starters is a little odd. Whilst it makes me think of Eygon from Ghostbusters, I imagine it's closer to the Basque name Eygon with an I, which means to rise or ascension, a lofty name to be sure. And for Irina? It appears to be an Eastern European variant of the name Irene, itself stemming from a Greek goddess. Irene, goddess of peace, an appropriate name for the soft-spoken maiden then. Both Eygon and Irina are of Carim, so we can presume both native to the land. Are they both highborn? Irina was a nun and she is certainly well-spoken and the like, but Eygon presents a quandary. Whilst Eygon is undeniably a knight, his mannerisms are not what most would call noble. Posit: Oswald, Lautrec, and Marvellous Chester, all from Carim. Chester and Oswald are very well spoken, whereas Lautrec, the only knight of the three so far as we're aware, is very rough spoken, much like Eygon. Typically knights would be nobles, high-born into old, powerful families, or perhaps raised to knighthood for some great deed. But there's a peculiar line of Eygon's that has always interested me.
You like poking around in cells, do you? How very genteel.
Genteel means polite, refined, posh, high class, noble, however you want to put it. In modern English, you'd use it as more of a sarcastic remark, and Eygon's tone certainly sounds sarcastic given the context. And there's another line very similar where he says very noble instead of genteel. Still, he never really carries himself with any particular disdain for nobles, nor peasants so far as we can see, although he doesn't seem that keen on old people and degenerates. And it could well be a coincidence, the parallels between Lautrec and Eygon, but it's interesting to me. They are both so very crass. Our only real look at the Knights of Carim. Is that just how knights are in Carim? Maybe. But who is Eygon? And what is he doing in Lothric with Irina?
Taking an interest in her, have you? Well, she's a lost cause. Couldn't even become a firekeeper. After I brought her all this way and got her all ready. She's beyond repair, I tell you.
That line about sums it up. Irina was on her pilgrimage to this land, whilst in the first Dark Souls, Rhea was on pilgrimage to the catacombs to acquire the art of kindling. But as of Dark Souls 3, that art is either forgotten or irrelevant, and Irina's pilgrimage instead is to become a firekeeper. Although in truth, the difference here is not all that great. Eygon remarks that she appears to have failed at becoming a firekeeper, but it seems she is a good way along the path. Often she will remark on the dark creatures biting away at her. This would appear to be a reference to the infinite humanity of the firekeeper souls. A firekeeper's soul is a drawer for humanity, and held within their bosoms, below just a thin layer of skin, are swarms of humanity that writhe and squirm. Humanity hasn't played too much of a role in the sequels, but this appears to be a direct reference. As for its insect-like nature, not sure what to make of that. Humanity items appear to be fragments of the Dark Soul, and in the abyss spawned from Manus, we found living humanity. So perhaps the creatures are just tiny versions of those enemies. At any rate, Irina possesses a firekeeper's soul, but is not a firekeeper initially. What does that mean? Well, considering the fact that Irina can later become a firekeeper and is able to level us up, perhaps the initial failure was just that. She was unable to command ownerless souls, such as our firekeeper and the Emerald Herald were able to. And yet, when we find her, she is cooped up in a cell, watched over by Eygon. Did he imprison her out of disgust? To punish her? I do not think so. Rather, I think he was watching over her, keeping her safe. Eygon and Irina have a complex relationship, but although Eygon initially appears to care very little about Irina, and what care he does deign to show appears to be nothing more than his duty, I think there's a little more to it than that.
I made myself very clear. My allegiance remained only as long as you assured the girl's safety. This knight of Carim does not forgive betrayal. Even a broken woman deserves her dignity.
This, combined with some of his other dialogue and general mannerisms, give me the impression that Eygon cares more for Irina than he would care to admit. What do you think? But speaking of Eygon and his relation with other women, ever had a look at his shield? Whilst most of his equipment appears generic or mass-produced for Knights of Carim on pilgrimage, Eygon's shield is definitely unique to Eygon. A deformed great shield given to Eygon of Carim upon being conferred knighthood. The giant woman's face that protects Eygon is that of his sister, some years his senior. Either Eygon's family had a shield created for him that featured his sister's likeness, or there's some messed up Carim shenanigans going on here, and that's actually Eygon's sister, or her soul, transfused into his shield. The language here is somewhat vague, but judging from other Carim treasures, see the Cursebite ring, it seems possible to me that the shield possesses the soul of his deceased sister, perhaps a way for her to protect him even in death. Then again, it could well be something else. Maybe it is Irina's face, but I do like the idea of it being his dead sister. But again, that's just my take on it. There's also a line in Eygon's armour. A Carim knight will dedicate an entire career to attending a single maiden, just as Mont once served one goddess alone, which could be taken to mean Lautrec, faithful knight of Fina. I don't put too much stock into that theory, but it's worth the mention. Back to Eygon and Irina though. Should you rescue Irina from her imprisonment and take her back to Firelink Shrine, there are two main paths open to you now. First up, you can have Irina teach you dark miracles that you locate on your travels. This will apparently exacerbate the darkness within her bosom and cause Eygon to spirit her away from Firelink Shrine, leading to an encounter. Killing Eygon here will then leave Irina despondent, unless you happen to wear Eygon's gauntlets and touch her, at which point she'll reveal that, well, take a listen for yourself.
Touch me one last time, and kill me, as you promised you would.
And taking the player to be Eygon because you are wearing Eygon's gauntlets, she'll have you kill her. The other route you can take is to keep her from the dark miracles, continue down this road, and eventually Irina will become a firekeeper. For true.
Oh, sweet champion of Ash, let souls be your strength.
Just how did this happen? Was it due to her being near the bonfire? Was it going to happen at any rate, one way or the other? Was it a boon of courage or faith granted to her by the Ashen One's presence? We can't say for certain, but at this point, Irina is capable of increasing the Ashen One's power, leveling them up, manipulating the ownerless souls. But what of Eygon? Strangely enough, the player can find Eygon dead in Irina's initial location, the cell. My thoughts are that, his mission complete, he chose to end his life, for there was nothing else left to him. Morn's Greathammer remarks that it is bestowed upon Carim knights who demonstrate outstanding strength and, more importantly, unwavering faith. Although faith is a game mechanic, if you take it from the more literal meaning of the word, it would mean that Eygon had a strongly held belief, a conviction that he stuck to, no matter what. Then again, maybe Eygon lost Irina after she changed location and went searching for her, only to be ambushed by some enemy. A slightly less dramatic end, but one quite suitable for Dark Souls. In the end, perhaps the best parallel for Eygon and Irina would be Garl Vinland and his own maiden Astraea. Both couples are near the end of their journey. It makes you wonder though, doesn't it? Would the Saint and her Squid Knight have ever achieved anything? What of Eygon and Irina? Should the Ashen One leave them be? Just what was the plan? To sit and rot until the Age of Fire found its end? Or until Irina's sacrifice was no longer necessary and Eygon might take her home to Carim? Or maybe that was his idea all along, to sit eternal, watching over her, preserving what dignity remains her.
Now I can tell you tales of miracles, forever and ever.